Welcome back to your Netball Besties. We're your hosts, Alexa and Jenna, and this is actually our first proper episode of the 2026 SSN season. If you're new here, this is where we deep dive into the game analysis for SSN games, as well as touch on diamonds and netball news in general. A few crazy things have happened in netball world recently, some things that have gone super viral, which we are really excited to talk about and break down in detail. Also, welcome to all of our new followers and also all of the OG followers who have been with us since our very first episode a whole year ago. Can you believe it's been a whole year?
I know, it's really flown by, hasn't it?
So full disclosure, making this podcast is a lot of work, and I was really in two minds about doing a second season this year, but when we got the end of year Spotify wrapped data, it kind of changed my mind on it, I guess, because it's not until you see the numbers of just like, I guess, how many people had us as like our top podcast, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's good though.
Well, especially when you think about we're not like a 12-month round podcast either. So we're competing with podcasts that they're listening to all year round. Also, this year we actually have official Your Netball Besties social accounts as well. So we're now on Instagram and TikTok. So if you want to be part of the conversation and let us know your thoughts on what we talk about throughout the episodes, Instagram is going to be the best place for that. Little life update. Jenna, you've had a lot going on.
Oh, a couple of things. Oh gosh.
So you've moved house, you're officially in?
Yes, officially in. We've, amongst all the rest of the crazy that was listed last episode, we've also been building a house and we got the keys last week. So if you notice paint splotches, just ignore it.
Yeah, I came over to help you unpack a little bit on the weekend, and we were both wearing our matching JLP collection t-shirts. It was crazy because you had two of your kids there, two of your four children. You had all of the puppies, because Jenna's a breeder. If you didn't hear last time, Jenna's a breeder. So there's like 2 litters of puppies. You had your 3 adult dogs, and then a house full of boxes. You were painting, and then you had your husband and his friend like putting all the furniture. It was freaking hectic.
When isn't it though? Like, when isn't it really?
Let's talk about something that went super viral recently, and that was a clip that I was sent from the NSL, and that was involving a player who I'm not familiar with because, as you guys know, I don't watch the NSL. Essentially, there was an unprovoked two-handed push shove of a player pushing them offside in front of a umpire, and then the player in question implored to the umpire, look, she's offside, and then celebrated when the call did go her way. This was something that went super viral, and I guess we want to talk about the fact of when does a line get crossed? Why did this go viral? Also touch on player welfare versus people being able to feel entitled to have an opinion on what sportsmanship is, and whether something, even though it might happen often, which people told me does happen in the NSL a lot, whether that is okay and whether that is the standard that we are just accepting. Because I would say, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this, Jenna, is that if we are comparing to the SSN is incredibly physical, incredibly demanding. It is the top competition in the world for a reason. But I feel like there's a real distinct line between, on-body contesting, and we can bring a lot of examples to this, like the recent game, Fever versus Lightning, I guess, versus something that feels very calculated, deliberate. Jenna, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that clip too, and just like you, I don't follow it too closely, but I think I had to rewatch it a few times to sort of understand like the intent behind it, and I use the word intent because it did feel like a very intentional. There's one thing contesting for the ball and being actively chasing a ball and sort of, shoving to try and grab to it first or something. When you're both standing still and then there's a push offside directing it, it does feel very calculated and intentional. And it might be different in the NSL, but you wouldn't expect to see something like that in SSN. Like, it is extremely physical, like you said. But I also feel like the players in that league, yes, they get physical, but it's about 99% of the time it's contested equally. It's always with the ball in play.
And that's not to say that there isn't push and shove off the ball.
Of course not at all. No.
But this is like when we're talking about a bit of push and shove, exactly that. That's not a calculated waiting for, an umpire to be close and then timing a shove to push a player off. There's just, I feel like there's apples and oranges, and I feel like to compare all of this, I think it has been said online in regards to the video that I shared went incredibly viral. And when you're sharing content like this, and I've shared content like that of bad calls or things like that, you never know what is going to go super viral. It's hard to control. It's impossible to control. And it's also not great. I hate viral videos because it pushes your content to a non-netball audience and it never goes well. Essentially, the reason that I think that this did go so viral is because that it wasn't just like all of the others. It's not down to passion. It's not down to competitiveness. I deactivated the comments. And I just want to clarify that was a preemptive move on my part because I didn't want to have to monitor all of those comments. So for me, the engagement didn't really matter. So I was happy to just turn off the comments because, full disclosure, I was at Outback Splash with my kids and I wanted to spend the day with my family, not monitoring crazy comments. Additionally, I am not on Twitter or X for that reason.
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of that, hate and vile commentary was being essentially, it was happening on a platform that I'm not on. I don't associate my content or my platform with that.
Well, like you've said before, that your platform will not be there for people to engage with hateful comments and hateful things like that. So I think the preemptive thing was correct because it has opened a broader conversation about sportsmanship in general in the netball in the world. I don't think any sort of hate towards any particular player is ever condoned.
No, which is why we're not even going to name the player. We're not going to direct any attention there. And I did end up deleting the videos when I saw that NSL had put up a post about, asking people to stop hate, even though my comments were off and my platform was not the place where that was originating or happening. I still felt like this just wasn't something I wanted to at all be connected with anymore because it had become a beast that I couldn't control.
Yeah, and I think it is also important though to have things that open discussions and have conversations about bigger issues, but as soon as it turns down there, unfortunately, as soon as it's not constructive anymore, that's when it needs to be shut down.
Exactly, and touching on what you just said as well, Jenna, in regards to opening up the conversation, for me this became less about what a particular player did and perhaps what the aftermath was after that for choices they made to reply to certain comments, etc. That all aside, that's not what I think the most important thing to take from this is. It's actually sportsmanship and having a consistent netball standard across the board and what that looks like. I believe that is what triggered people so much is because you have, I would say, the vast majority camp who sit in the category of wanting sportsmanship. And in other words, if you're not entirely sure what sportsmanship means, it basically means that you conduct yourself with integrity when you're playing your sport. That's as simple as it is. So I guess the commentary that I found so grating, I think, was the idea that this was just, all players are passionate. What's a bit of, contesting here and stuff.
Yeah, that wasn't passion.
No.
That wasn't passion, unfortunately.
In my opinion, being completely blunt, that was cheating. That was cheating. What else would you constitute in the rules of netball specifically as cheating? If we were to break down what the definition is, if you are deliberately breaking a rule in a calculated way, this isn't about fighting for position, fighting for front position. This isn't even about subtly a defender pushing pushing their hip into you when you're on the circle edge to try and force you to fall in. It's like apples and oranges.
It was because there was a very noticeable thought process that went into it.
Yes.
It wasn't even reactive.
Again, the sportsmanship aspect is what I find so interesting because I'm reading some of the commentary and the people who are sitting in the camp of, if you can get away with it, then go for it.
You have to hold our sport to a higher standard.
100%.
Yeah.
And knowing that there are cameras everywhere.
But that also raises a valid point. Is this not only in the infancy of it actually being televised and having cameras there? So a learning opportunity.
A lot of the commentary was also interesting in saying that, this happens at all levels of netball. And it's okay, well, therein lies the problem, right? Because you have the top level of netball being a role model, and this is another subject I'm going to deep dive on my socials as well, is what does it mean to be a role model, and is that something that you get to choose to be? Whereas I sit in the camp where if you are at the top level of anything that is visible, like sport, then you're at the top of a pyramid. Therefore, everyone is looking up to the top of that pyramid, and you are a role model by default, and your choice lies only in whether you choose to be a good or a bad one.
Yep, no, I would agree.
I know that, if you're coming from the point of a professional athlete, they probably wouldn't like that answer, because that is essentially handing over responsibility that they don't necessarily want.
You have to have it all, the good and the bad. You can't pick and choose, and that's not condoning other people's behaviour towards you in any regard, but that, the responsibility for yourself.
100%. No, I truly believe that. There are thousands and thousands of, young players who are looking up at this, and when you see it at the elite level, you think that it's okay. And if you have people telling you that it's okay, then how is that little moldable mind supposed to understand any different?
And I think as well, that's probably why it has created such a discussion, because it is everyone from all over the world that watch different leagues and that have grown up with different leagues. Like, you only know what you've seen. So that's why it's created such a conversation, but it would be great if there was a unanimous sort of what it should look like.
Well, I guess perhaps naively so, I expected that elite netball, like the standards would be quite consistent, but I think it's been a learning experience for me to see that this is apparently, from what I've seen in the commentary, quite standard and something that is done regularly. So I think to a lot of people this wasn't a shock, and maybe they are desensitized to it and think that, oh well, I've seen this all the time and it's never been made global news before, so everyone's just making a mountain out of a molehill, but there's a reason why it went viral. Yeah, no, I agree. Very interesting conversation to have. Again, nothing about needing to pile on any particular player, because it's also a bigger issue, I think, when you look at how people have reacted. But like anything, it is a learning opportunity. A moment of reflection is had, support's given, and we see how they move forward, because NSL is trying to, still in their process of legitimising, essentially, I use that term loosely, just in the way that SSN, and if they want to achieve what the SSN has, there's going to be a lot of things that will need to be put in place. In regards to like what you said, Jenna, the argument of whether or not these expectations should be put on elite sportsmen, like on the top, and I would argue to that, if you're not going to put those high standards on the very top players in your league, then where are those high standards going to exist? Yeah. We have a couple of updates to the SSN scoreboard this year. Yes, we do. We're even more so on the Fever one. Yeah, that was a bit confusing being at the game. I think we had to take a minute to sort of look at the scoreboard and break down, does that mean that? We obviously, most of us by now would see that they have implemented the numbers underneath the main total to essentially just differentiate where the points come from, where the goals come from. Were they one goals, or were they super shot 2 goals? So that's really helpful when you just want to kind of see like where the team's strengths are. We're at the Fever game, the Fever Lightning game yesterday. They had extra additions to the scoreboard. So yeah, I'm not sure if you could see that at home. I didn't notice. I haven't watched the game back on TV. You probably won't. I think it was in stadium. Like just in stadium, So I'm not sure if maybe the other stadiums, let us know if like the other stadiums have done something similar. But I think it's a great idea, especially where the line shows whose centre pass it is. Yeah, there was like a red line on the screen, so whoever centre pass it is, it would flick over, and then the little circles as well. Yeah, for how many? For timeouts per half. I don't know like how helpful the timeouts are for us. I would say that's probably more helpful for the umpires, and probably even more so like whose centre pass it is. Like I'm not keeping track. But either way, it was a nice to have. All right, let's go straight into SSN deep dive analysis. So the first game of the season was Mavericks versus Giants. A bit to say about this. I have started the new little mini analysis series that I'm trying to get out as quickly as possible after the games, which are really hard to get any real detail and nuance and have a full rounded example of what our analysis is. It really is just a mini, bite-sized, if you will. So this is obviously where we can kind of get a little bit deeper into it. So Mavs won 61-52 against the Giants. These are both teams that struggled last season. This season, I guess, obviously with all of the changes in the teams, which we've talked about to death, about all of the changes in the teams, the biggest, obviously, standout was JLP moving to Mavericks. And in this game, of course, she was playing her old team.
Oh, you gotta love going up against your old side. Who doesn't?
I'm sure she loved that because she absolutely annihilated that game. And this isn't just to JLP, obviously to JLP fans, this is data. So if you're looking at the net points, JLP was on the leaderboard at 140 net points.
Yeah, the definition of a blinder.
Absolutely, and the reason that it's so significant as well is because the second person down on the leaderboard had 73.
Yeah, wild.
Just to highlight just how incredibly valuable she was, for the Mavericks. A few Mavericks fans did not love my highlighting, I guess, things that I think didn't work as well. So I would say, I think I said that for both Giants and Mavericks in this game, for me, highlighted reoccurring issues that I'd hoped would have been ironed out, but I just don't see that they have. And that was both attacking ends for this team. So we saw essentially Mavericks don't have Jovic anymore, and she's such a fast player.
Yeah.
If anything, like a real engine of the driving attack for Mavericks last year. And obviously, Maddie Hay is in that wing attack position now, who is an incredible, experienced, player in her own right. But there are differences in players, and the difference for me was the speed, because if we move aside JLP's 140 net points, JLP is not the fastest attacking player. She is a very strong, dominant powerhouse of a player.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about the attacking side, she's not the fastest, and obviously that hasn't hindered her. But if you don't have a really fast, zippy wing attack to assist with that, there is something lacking.
Yeah.
This is just in regards to when they are coming against the different teams. Like if they're coming against a defensive unit like Vixens, a defensive unit like Fever, they're going to struggle to cut through that.
Yeah.
I also touched on the fact that, Nelson was struggling to essentially make herself appear as a reliable option in the circle. There was a lot of hesitation around the circle edge, and I would say that so much of that is just too much movement and releasing from that hold too quickly. So the feeders just didn't feel confident in feeding into her in those times, because you've got Jane Watson right there.
Yeah, well, round one jitters maybe. I'll give her benefit of the doubt.
Give her benefit of the doubt? Okay, we'll go with that. Again, I agree with someone who commented on my video in regards to, as soon as Unique Pallavi came on, she was incredible. She was outstanding, but there was a reason why she was put on. It was because the original setup just wasn't clicking as well as I think they will, once they're a bit more practiced. Pallavi was really good.
Yeah, I did see a bit of that, and she was pretty solid. Although, so maybe there will be a bit more of a competition for that shooter bib.
Yeah, perhaps. I would say that Unique Pallavi has earned that as well. I think every time she's come on, she's always been very impressive and very reliable as a player. So, if we see that GS bib shared and divided time between Nelson and Pallavi, I think that would be justified.
Yeah.
Also want to point out congratulations to Amy Parmenter on her 100th SSM game.
Yeah, very exciting.
Big achievement for the Mavericks captain. Congratulations. She enters this year as a married woman.
Well, no name change. So maybe she's keeping her name.
Oh, that's such a good point. Yes.
Good on her if she is.
Yeah, she hasn't changed her name.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't even notice that, What stood out to me, I think that Jane Watson in defence with Erin O'Brien worked really well, essentially. They actually did a really good job. They were obviously creating a lot of hesitation for the Mavericks feeding. They did not have a centre to match JLP. They rotated between Souness and Sliger in centre, which, unfortunately just kind of highlights that perhaps they don't have a strong enough centre option when you're coming up against a diamond and a strong centre like JLP. That's going to happen again. What's going to happen when you come up against Kate Maloney?
Yeah, but also I reckon JLP would have she should be in the in. She knows what they're going to be, where they're going to be headed. She, was probably positioning herself up, so she probably had them shut right down.
They definitely need a little bit more practice to be able to come up against centres as strong as that, because I guess if you're looking at the net points alone, I think where we're looking at the 20 to 40s versus 140 for that centre comparison. I really liked seeing Lucy Austin's initial entry when she got put on the court. I thought that this was the strongest start we've ever seen from her, the most confident start. She came in with something to prove. She was putting shots up. She was finding space. The defenders kind of couldn't get hold of her. It was almost looked too easy for a minute there. And then the Mavericks did call a timeout and they reassessed what was happening. And once they identified what was happening, then I think the pressure was put on a little bit and we saw a few more turnovers. Then, of course, you had Matisse moved back on because there was a super shot period. And I would say, objectively, that's your strongest super shot duo.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Matisse and Sophie. There's a lot of discussion around who should be the starting GS for Giants. And I think that it should be Matisse, purely based on the fact that Matisse and Sophie are a fairly experienced duo now.
Yeah, the well-oiled machine.
Again, we are talking about a very young attacking end.
Yeah, to be honest, I actually wouldn't be surprised if we don't have a set starting shooter and it is more of a rotation.
A lot still to come and figure out from both those teams.
It's just round one.
Yeah, it's just round one. Game 2 was one that I think we were all just so excited to watch.
For sure, yeah.
The game of, I don't want to say the game of the weekend, but potentially the game of the weekend.
I feel like this is probably my most anticipated game.
Yeah, I think so too. Because like we had, of course, Shamira Sterling Humphrey.
On return, yeah.
Yes, and versus Grace Wecker. And we talked about this so much in regards to the lead up, because this was the big, matchup that we were all waiting for last year. And this is obviously pre-Shamira pregnancy news. We're like, oh, Shamira doesn't seem like herself.
She's been really quiet. That's so odd. We know, poor girl is probably fighting for her life.
Oh, literally, God, first trimester, worst. Yeah. It's been 2 seasons that we have waited to see this. Do you know what? Having seen how Elmire Thunderbirds has performed so far, what we won't get to see is Shamira versus her. Like, I almost feel like that's the matchup I want to see.
That would be really fun. Imagine also going up training against each other.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I am so excited about Vandenberg. Because I know that we saw in international netball, was it Australia versus South Africa?
Yeah.
We did see her get a little bit rattled and just a bit in her head, and going in there was a lot of talk saying, well, she's going to play SSN, she needs to get, and I think seeing her in the preseason, seeing her round 1, she has already absolutely just
shut us right up.
Yeah, she's nipped that in the head, and I just think she is going to just absolutely thrive in SSN. She deserves to be here, and she just looks so effortless. Nothing could shake her. And also, super shot, do it with your eyes closed.
She was the top of the leaderboard for super shots in the NSL, wasn't she, last year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was.
So we already know that she's an absolute gun for the super shot. Yep. She can do everything else well. That's the thing. And she's not the tallest. She's so smart.
But that was the thing, watching her, it's almost like, just like when you watch a game when the shooter's doing their thing and the defenders adjust, she was adjusting to them, adjusting to her, which was just such game smarts. Defenders couldn't even get a read on her. Like Sarah Clow, she was having a crack as much as she could, but she just could not make a dent in Vandenberg. Oh.
She's already broken a record. Like, we didn't even touch on the score, but Thunderbirds, using a word thrashed feels unfair, but they kind of thrashed the Swifts here. This was like a 20-goal win over the Swifts, 74-54, and they broke a record in like the last second as well.
Yeah, oh my gosh, there was like 10 seconds. I'm like, let her shoot, please, let her shoot the ball.
Like, what a way to enter.
But also, and MVP your first game.
Yes, just so much more to come from her. Thunderbirds, I just think Tanya Ops is so smart. She's such a smart coach. She has built this team.
The recruiting process has been flawless, even with the addition of Heffernan.
Yes.
They're a connection in attack. Oh my goodness, seamless. Even between Georgie Frew and Vandenberg, you'd think they've been playing for decades how well they read each other. Because when you also put it up against some other sides that have been only playing for a couple years or longer, they don't look as well oiled.
That is a good point. Very good point.
So it is just such smarts.
And we got to see that as well at the preseason when they played Fever as well, and how just blown away we were.
Yeah, they are, to me, early days, but they're looking the most consistent. Like, they are looking the most
I've already called
solid.
grand final winners. I've already called it.
Winners?
Yeah, that's how confident.
That's brave. I reckon T-Birds are the team to beat this year.
100%.
They're going to be in that grand final.
Yeah. I think that arguably they are stronger than they were when they were back-to-back premiers.
They are just looking so solid, and if they can just keep a lead, even Shamira Sterling, you could tell she was still a little bit reserved, but her reserve was still someone's best game.
Exactly, yeah.
So, and she was getting handball. We did see, I do want to also point out, it was really great to see Grace going up for some 2 points. I think it's really good to see the confidence, her game growing. We did see a little bit of the flustering, I want to say, and a little bit of like frustration on her part when she was feeling like she was getting a little bit beaten on the ball. But that is something that she does really need to, work on, and hopefully she does continue to work on that this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, she has Joe Harton as a coach.
Yeah, and you know what, that will help. And maybe that is also the credit for the super shot attempts and knowing when to go for it.
Really good point. I think, we definitely want to deep dive in regards to, I guess, like the Helen Housby and Grace Wecky matchup, because that's something that's really worth discussing. I just want to defend myself momentarily. When I did my starting 7 predictions for Thunderbirds, I had Taylor Williams starting over Kate Heffernan, not because I don't think that Kate Heffernan is incredible, because she obviously is, but purely because I thought that Tanya would have more loyalty with Taylor Williams, and that perhaps she wouldn't want to bench a Garrett, a Diamond, and so that's kind of what my reasoning was. But she did play 60 minutes. She was incredible. Definitely the first quarter, I think her against Taylor Fraser was it was just Taylor, unfortunately, just no match. I was surprised to see Taylor in centre, but for this game. I was surprised Maddie Proud didn't start, because I think that Kate Heffernan's workload definitely increased once Maddie Proud got
I
on the
wonder
court.
if there's a bit of an injury niggle, because I feel like her knee, I've seen her knee strapped up and iced and heavily bandaged quite a bit on socials and over this pre-season, which wouldn't be surprising, especially coming back from baby.
For them, I think.
Yeah, but
with
it's
no
one of those
Paige,
things.
you want a Maddie at 100%,
Yeah,
don't you?
you do. So but as we said, early days still.
But so the reason that I wanted to highlight that is because everyone thought I was crazy for thinking, to start Taylor Williams. I just want to point that the girl played half a game and she came second on the net points leaderboard. She had 26 feeds and she was at over 100 net points. I just want to say, girl is amazing. So let's talk about the Helen Housby Grace Wecky elephant in the room. Obviously something that we've touched on a lot last season. We're really hoping, or still hoping, we've talked a lot about why perhaps they nullify each other and why the two different styles, although dominating and outstanding in their own rights, perhaps isn't just the best combination together.
Yeah, and I think this is like we just briefly touched on with T-Bird's signing. That was such a smart signing, how well that those players fit together. But Grace and Helen are such incredible players within their own rights, and it almost feels like it's a scenario where there's just too many chefs in the kitchen, and it's almost like they haven't yet been able to gel, just unable to just sort of fire at the same time. It's almost like only one can thrive and dominate, but at the expense of the other. They haven't yet figured out. We've
not only just seen Helen Housby playing more of a feeder role, which is fine. Sometimes that's a GA role, sometimes that's fine. But of course, when you have a game like SSN, this isn't normal netball, this is SSN with super shots. So what I've noticed so consistently now is Helen Housby was undoubtedly the super shot queen for years. No one could compete with her. Her accuracy and her confidence to post was unmatched. Whereas the last 2 seasons, we've seen her essentially just obviously not even put up as many 1-goal attempts. So she then goes into the super shot zone cold.
Yeah, and actually I do want to point out as well, we had the same conversation about this last season, but then we actually saw her playing in international and she was back killing it. So it shows it's just there. And now does it come down to a question of what is the right setup for Swifts? I definitely think something needs to give, because if it hasn't clicked yet, as much as I have faith and hope that it will click, I'm a little skeptical considering how much less time some other people have had, and yet it's working. For example, Fever. Romelda and Sasha, both not there last year. And seeing them on this weekend's game, once again, you'd think they've been playing for years together. They have just absolutely just clicked so well.
Well, I guess you could kind of argue a similar setup, couldn't you? Is where like, you know, Sasha is your super shot shooter, and then you have your tall holding Romelda under the post. Very like similar styles, I would say, but Sasha and Romelda are still sharing the load, which we'll touch on with our deep dive for this game as well. Almost like an over-reliance to go to
one over the other. And imagine them both just dominating and connected at the same time. I think they would be unstoppable.
I mean, they once were at the beginning of last season.
They were.
You know, if they looked like they were unbeatable, like how do you penetrate it? That's exactly, you know, it's like getting that confidence back. I'm not sure what happened there. We still have Swifts in our top 4, so we need you to get it back. That was our prediction for top 4. What did we have? We had, not in any order, we had Fever, Swifts, Lightning, and Thunderbirds. Yeah. And I would say Thunderbirds are my top. That's my order now. I do want to say though that I really enjoyed the uplift that Swifts had as soon as Maddie Proud did enter. I know that she's not the captain this year. Maddie Turner has that honour. Maddie Proud has been the captain for some time there, and I feel like her presence on the court, that really shows. Like as soon as she entered. There's just the whole energy of the whole team went up, and that's when they started to fight back in that second quarter. Potentially what happened was, like you mentioned, I think the knee strapping and things got a bit on top.
Yeah, it could do, so I wouldn't be surprised if there is a bit of an injury niggle there.
Game 3, so Vixens versus Firebirds. I was really excited to see this game because I think, like, traditionally, historically, we would have said, Vixens have got this over Firebirds, but Firebirds are almost a completely different team.
Oh, it was such an exciting start though. It was an exciting, I'd say first half, it was really exciting.
Could go either way. This could go either way.
Literally, and that's what you want. We don't want blowouts. It's so much more fun when it's close. It's competitive.
I mean, beginning of the seasons, that is where we get our blowouts. It's not a surprise. So even though Swifts did lose by 20 at the beginning of the season, that isn't uncommon. Like later in the season, obviously things get tighter. But I was a little bit hopeful just for Firebirds. I was like,
we love an underdog.
What have you got? Like, let's see it.
Come on.
What did you think about Kiri Will's decision to put Macy Gardner in centre for the vast majority of the game? So I would have gone with Maddie Gordon against Kate Maloney. I feel like Maddie Gordon is like a Silver Fern starting centre. I feel like if you're going up against a Diamond starting centre, you would want to put Maddie Gordon on Kate Maloney.
I can see that, but also once again, you still don't want to also show your hand completely yet, do you? Still early days, not everyone wants to show their hand just yet. I
think the Macy Gardner is a really incredible midi, obviously. I think that Kate Maloney just really did get
she does
the best of her.
Yeah, she needs someone that can kill, because oh my gosh, that girl is fit.
There's no stopping Kate Maloney.
Fitness that only anyone can dream of. Oh my gosh, I wish I was half as fit as her.
She looks like when she finishes the game, she looks like she could literally do it all over again.
Just go do, right? Like, oh my God, the hardest game of your life. Everyone's like, oh, and she's like, guys, let's go. Oh my God.
Oh, I love her. I mentioned on my socials as well, like what I love about the Vixens and what I think that they do in spades more so than anyone else is they just have so much composure. They really do look like no amount of deficit rattles them, you know, and we've seen this before.
I think that's what led them to their finals campaign.
100%.
Able to just
that's what the
chip
marker
away
of a champion is, isn't it?
Chip away and stay composed.
100%. You know, like that is what makes a champion, and they are a champion team made of champions, and I think that their core energy is always that really strong self-belief, and the fact that they know that they are amazing and they can come back from any deficit, and we see that like happen again and again.
Well, when they're playing confidently, when they're connected, they're unstoppable, and that's what we saw last year. Remember when they were a bit disconnected and they were, and as soon as they lost sight of their game and what makes them them, that was when they started having issues. But as soon as they locked back in, they were so consistent.
For Vixens, it's very much it's all about where their mindset is, because the skill's already there. The skill, the connections, the experience, everything's already there. like it all comes down to where their heads are at.
Definitely.
I really want to point out, I guess, like the disconnect that we saw with the Firebirds shooting end. Quite a lot of disconnect.
Yes, and some missed shot opportunities. We might need to put some more shots up at training.
We spoke a lot about last season that Mary was coming out of the circle quite a lot, and we were confused as to why, because it just felt like in that moment wasn't necessarily the right choice. And so it was interesting to actually get the huddle audio for this game where Kiri Wills specifically told Mary, don't come out, wait for the ball to come to you.
Yeah. But maybe, you know what, I take that as maybe they've clearly identified what they need to work on and they're actively trying to work on it. I really liked the defensive combo of Ruby Baker-Doran and Kelly Jackson. Some of those saves. That reach on Kelly.
The 2 over baselines?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Have we been practicing at training, is all I can say. Have you been sitting on the edge of the baseline just flicking bowls back in? Like,
it was actually insane, wasn't it?
That's going to make the career highlight reel. It was so exciting.
And not even one to actually have 2. Like
there
2
were
of those.
There were a couple real crackers. So I reckon that combo is going to grow really nicely. It's going to be more focused now on their attacking end.
I think it was just unfortunate that in this scenario, they were just against arguably one of the best shooting, like, you know, probably the most experienced and well-oiled shooting combo in the competition. They had a hill to climb, you know, as defenders. So, but you know, they did pretty damn well.
Yeah, they did well.
I do want to just, okay, you know, you have to say what you told me this morning of what you were thinking, what your suspicion might be for perhaps a little bit of a lineup shake-up soon.
I have a feeling. Sometimes my feelings are pretty accurate though. I think we might see Gretel Bueta potentially return for Firebirds lineup next year. Gretel, if you're listening, make me not a liar.
Look, the Lightning fan in me wants her to come to Lightning.
No,
her bestie Liz, I'm sure, would want her there.
It's more fun to verse each other. Clearly, we versed each other, what was it, last week? Well, I say we versed. Unfortunately, I didn't play.
Oh, you were injured, yeah.
Well, my poor little ankle needed a little rest. It's so much more fun versing your friends, isn't it? As soon as that whistle goes, friends no more.
Yep, friends no more. Gloves off. Watch this space, You heard it here first. All right, let's talk about the final game. So we were at this game. I haven't rewatched the on-screen version with commentary, have you?
No.
Yeah, so we're just going from based on like our view, obviously, without commentary and without any of that. So just from where we were sitting. Let's talk about what I think were, I guess, like the strengths and weaknesses. Let's go with that.
Sure.
So let's start with Fever. I'm very, I don't know, what's the word? I'm very like proud, I don't know, to announce that I was so bloody right about this. Like everyone doubted Fever.
Yeah, it's the same. And you know what? Every single year.
So a full disclosure, if you are new to listening or watching us, Jenna and I, we are Fever fans. We live in Perth. Jenna is like true blue, very Fever fan. I am a fan of all netball. I'm like fairly impartial.
I'm also a fan of all netball too. That's the thing.
True, but you are obviously a Fever fan.
I would identify as a Fever fan, correct? And I can also critique where critique be necessary.
And you do.
I do.
People might make the assumption of like biases, like depending on like who we identify as being like a fan of.
Yeah. Oh no, you won't get bias from me. I'll
we always try our best not to be biased.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I can identify my own bias. For me, anything that involves Liz Watson and Steph Fretwell, obviously Steph Fretwell.
Liz could throw a punch and like sort of be like, well, maybe she said something to her that made her upset.
Sure it's justified.
Yeah. Whereas me, on the other hand, I'd be like, maybe we don't punch people on court, you know? But
I think someone messaged me and said that they heard on the commentary that Steph Fretwell was going to be on like the Fox commentary desk, but like I didn't see it. I didn't see anything about it.
No, was she on Pivot?
I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. I didn't see anything about it, but she's like super pregnant.
Oh yeah, she'd be popping any day now.
Any day now, surely.
Wasn't she similar as Paige Hadley?
Yeah, like I thought she was due March. So like any day.
Any day now.
So yeah, I would have been surprised if she popped up on the commentary desk, but hey, there you go. I'm hardly going to be mad about it. I actually would love to know Steph's thoughts on what happened with the Lightning shooting end, because I guess like we really saw...
We saw Gabby Sinclair out with an injury.
Yes, and Gabby Sinclair was the answer to replace the Steph Fretwell move in GA.
I do love Gabby Sinclair. All
right, we're going in tangents. Let's go back to structure. So pros and cons. Okay, so Fever, incredible game. Incredible game. Let's just start with that. They did have the lead for the vast majority of this game. They had the control for the vast majority of this game, and we're going to talk about why we think that is. Let's ignore the end, because we'll touch on that they lost a little bit more of control towards the end. But let's talk about why they had so much control. I think that, and we've talked about this a lot in regards to the chatter around Janelle Fallon-Emard and how people really like to, I feel like, dismiss the rest of a really strong team.
Yeah, which is a little offensive.
To, you know, put everything on the shoulders of it's just because Janelle is there. Like, Janelle is like the GOAT, there's no disputing that. But
no.
Netball is not a one-player team. We obviously had Romelda replacing Janelle, which is a fantastic replacement for Janelle.
I think this was such a smart replacement because Romelda, in my opinion, was the next best. Yeah. It's exactly what Fever needed. She provides stability, she provides, you know, we've seen Aiken at her best, and I think it was so smart. So smart to pair that with Sasha Glasgow, because Sasha Glasgow and Romelda Aiken-George, I would say, are not like your Grace and Helen Houseby. They are different. So whereas your Helen and your Grace, dominant shooters who kind of need a supporting shooter, whereas Sasha and Romelda work really well as a team. Exactly, they do, and you could see that. Like, once again, another well-oiled machine. Like, they knew who needed the ball and when, and they shared the workload.
Sasha was incredible, and credit to her, because Bruce was making her life very, very hard. Let's just mention it now.
Bruce was passionate.
She was very passionate.
Very passionate in this game.
She was playing her old team and her home.
A little bit of visible frustration as well that I copped the other defenders in the circle with her. So I wonder if there was definitely some passion and emotion.
I didn't notice that. What do you mean?
Oh, her and Karen Berg.
Oh, really? Well, we mentioned this, didn't we? It's like too many chefs in the kitchen. If you have two leaders, who's going to take control?
And I think that's what it is. And I think Karen Berger and Bruce, I think they're the same person, different fonts. They are so similar, and I think, once again, they haven't yet figured out how to fire at the same time.
Yeah, who's directing, who's taking control?
And yeah, so it was...
I thought it was interesting that Bruce was kept on the court, and and I'm a fan of Bruce. I want to make that clear.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We both are. I think that this was a very heavy penalised game for her.
24 penalties for her alone, and for comparison, Dehaney and Fran were on 9 and 8 each.
Yeah, she was very heavily penalised, and I don't think unfairly so. I think she was really... she wasn't pulling out of those contests at all.
And that's where I think passion took over. Yeah. And, Courtney Bruce is a phenomenal player, but she's best when she stays in play and actually impacts the game that way.
It was
when
interesting
you're standing out, you can't do anything.
Well, we just watched her play back-to-back international series, and she wasn't playing like that.
No, which is why I think, the passion, there was some other driving force that took over. We've all had days where, take it out on the court a little bit.
They'll figure out, because it is obviously difficult. You had Irvin moved in. The height obviously worked a little bit better towards Romelda Aiken-George. I think that what Courtney Bruce was doing with Sasha in regards to really blocking her entrance to the circle.
She was really, I think third quarter, she was really making it tough. But then by the fourth quarter, Sasha really then coined back on how to work it off of her and started getting back in.
It was a really good battle to see. Like, that was a tussle of strength that was.
Yeah, definitely. But, kudos to Sasha as well for holding strong through that.
Yeah.
We did see her in the past couple of years with Mavs just unable to go into those contests.
Yeah.
But seeing, her getting back to her best and being able to hold strong was really good to see. And it just goes to show,
like we mentioned a lot, how much the mental side of it, we know that these players are capable, we know what they are capable of. Yeah. And it is just, where are they at, like mentally.
Back home, back in green, clearly this is where she should have been.
Like, how's her smile after that shot as well?
She was so excited. And I literally, even every time she got a super shot, I was literally getting goosebumps. It was nuts. But I must say, one thing about Fever as well is they were fired up. And it was an exciting...
Something to prove. They had something to
prove.
prove.
Yeah, it was an exciting and it was a hunger. And that is when Fever are absolutely unstoppable. And to go and put out such a performance like that, considering their current injury list, is just huge credit to them. Jordan Kransberg had a phenomenal game.
Yes.
Oh, those feeds. Oh my gosh, she's the next gen of Diamonds. Imagine her getting some mentoring from Liz Watson.
I don't think we even got to see her in pre-season much. So it's like, I don't think we got to see Fever's strongest side at all.
So that thing, not only were they injured, they were also unwell. I even thought it was great to see Fran. Fran was just into it. She was just doing a solid job in there.
Well, it's interesting because like that's what we talked about last year is obviously we had Sunday and we almost felt like, God, who is Dan going to put on? Because this is objectively the strongest defensive unit in the competition last year.
I think the depth alone.
And there weren't enough positions to have them all on the court. That's where it was like, oh my gosh, like Fran Williams deserves to be on there. But you know, then you've got Sunday, and it's like trying to rotate them. And now Ruth is coming back as well. But it's like, what a great problem to have. But now, obviously, because Sunday's injured, Fran's been on it, and it's like the defense has not skipped a beat.
No. Even Dehaney, it was good to see her after her little niggle that she's had over the international series.
But let's talk about Lightning because they were the favourites going in.
Yeah, definitely,
Across the board. I just want to say as well, I don't think anyone else had Fever in their top 4 but us.
I don't think so. And you know what?
Just say it. Let's talk about Lightning. So, you know, for those who are new to listening, I'm basically like a split fan, so that's why I turned up like not wearing anyone's colours. I turned up in pink because I was neutral. Like Fever.
Pink's neutral.
So these are the hardest games for me to watch. So, but I also feel like because of that, I can have like a pretty balanced view on what the strengths and weaknesses were. Obviously, Steph Fretwell retiring, huge loss for Lightning, and like you mentioned, Jenna, replacing that moving Jay, because obviously also Riley Bachador moved to Mavericks, which I'm surprised because I feel like if she'd stayed at Lightning, maybe she didn't realise that Steph was retiring because she would have been the GA next in line, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But
maybe she just wanted something fresh.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, and Melbourne's where you want to be when you're that young. Like I went to Melbourne at that age, and it's a good place to be. All right, let's talk about the fact that we didn't have Gabby Sinclair. So she has a calf injury. Not sure how serious. Have you?
I've not seen too much into it. No.
Hopefully not too serious because I think they're
going to need her.
Oh gosh, yes. Because this is the thing.
They needed GA.
We were, well, I say we, like Lightning fans, like I was very, very happy when we had the signing of Gabby Sinclair and Donnell Wallam because I feel like that, you know, you want to replace that gun GA super shot shooter. That is important. But you also want to have what Lightning were missing the last couple of seasons because they've always had a moving circle. Is having that option. Having that option.
Was smart,
I don't think that is the option that should be your 60-minute option, but obviously limited shooters here. I don't know, I guess I was frustrated because although I think that Donnell Wallam offers so much option with that height and her movement, you had one of the best GSs in the world in a GA bib for 60 minutes. I just feel like if things aren't going your way, isn't that the moment when you would want to put in her strongest position and then maybe give Sligo a run in GA, get some movement because Cara isn't.
That's exactly what we were saying at the game. We just thought, you know, like Dehaney was just getting the better of Wallam. As much as I was hoping that, you know, Cara would take this opportunity knowing that there's a bit of heat now for that starting position. Why not reset, go back to what you know, give a bit of stability to the court, and I think that would have actually given them a bit of a lift that they needed, even if it was for a quarter or just a little spell.
No, I agree.
And then if you really wanted to persist with that combination, then put it back on. To watch it play out like that and then make literally every change possible in defence.
I think we saw Sligo come on very momentarily with Donnell still in the GS bib. I just really would have loved to see that combo, essentially having a predominantly GA player play the GA bib and a predominantly strongest GS player play the GS role because I don't know, I guess like I don't know how you think about this, but I feel like a GA should be able to move into a wing attack role, perhaps not for a full 60 minutes, but it's something that they should be able to navigate because movement is quite similar, whereas I feel like expecting the same from a GS to move into a GA.
It's a little different. Like,
it's different, and we've seen it fall apart.
But even like when I personally play and I swap from GS to GA, it is a little bit different.
In comparison to what Chikara's biggest strengths are as a goal shooter, is that baseline dodge, is her timing, is like the fact that she can just like weave herself into the smallest gaps and find the ball. You know, she's incredible at that. She's so reliable at that. Yeah. And I suppose like in those main areas of strengths are very much centered to a GS. So if you are a moving
they needed the reset. They needed the reset.
I think the fact that Donnell was sinking super shots is what kept Lightning
in touch.
Essentially kept them in the game at all. It's obviously never an ideal situation to be reliant on that.
Speaking of the goals, how many attempts did we have at a goal at the end there? Oh my God,
that
the
was
most stressful. Oh my God, and I'm like going, rebounds. Someone wearing green, please rebound the ball. What are you doing?
I put my story did anyone count how many? And Katie messaged me. She was like, please don't.
Oh my gosh. Someone grab the ball.
Credit to Lightning for getting their own rebound.
And then, oh my goodness, what? And then it started inching, and there's 10 seconds on the clock.
It was like a real panic to the end there.
It was a panic.
Scramble, absolute scramble. Especially considering like Fever kind of like had control of the game for most of that time. But they very nearly could have lost it.
They could have, and it would have been the most ridiculously just insane.
No, it was entertaining because it almost became comical at that point when it was like the 7th time. It was just like...
someone grab the ball or someone put it in a hoop. Like, someone do something.
Good to be back. Good to be back amongst it.
Good to be back.
Thank you so much to everyone who is still listening at this point. If you want to follow us and have your say on everything that we've spoken about, please come and follow us on Instagram. It's just at Your Netball Besties. Also, please, if you haven't already, give us a 5-star review on Spotify. It really helps us out. Have an amazing week, everyone, and we will see you after round 2.